Welcome to another episode of Project Flux. Today we have a wide-ranging conversation with Phil Clifford-Brown from Construct AI, telling us about the construction-specific GPT that he's developed. Before that, Yoshi, can you just explain to the listeners about our slight change of format, please?
Yeah, so we're about 11 episodes in now, and we've started to look back at the feedback that a lot of you guys have been giving us, and we've noticed that some people are interested in the stories that we have with the guests on the podcast, and others are interested in when we cover the weekly rundown of what's happening in the industry. So we've decided to make 2 episodes out of one, so we've shortened them now, and we'll have one episode called The Weekly Pulse, which runs through all the latest developments from big tech within the different industries. And we have a spotlight series, which is focused just on the guests. So for people, depending on what they prefer, they can listen to each. But that shortened time span makes it easy for people to actually understand and digest the information, because there's a lot, right?
Absolutely. And exactly what we said in previous podcasts, we're listening to your feedback. So we really do value that. So any further feedback on the new format would be greatly appreciated. But without further ado, we're going to get on to the conversation with Phil Clifford-Brown now. I hope you enjoy it. Phil, thank you very much for giving up some of your time and coming on the Project Flux podcast.
Thanks for having me, James, and Yoshi too. Thanks.
And it was great to see you at Digital Construction Week. What was it, 2 weeks ago now? And as you were saying, real buzz there, wasn't there?
There seemed to be much more of a buzz than there has been in previous years. And it's certainly caused us to think about how we should approach those sorts of events. I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. So if you don't mind, if we could just start a bit about you and your career, because you've had quite a long time in IT and software, and if you look on your LinkedIn, numerous innovation projects. But can you just tell us a bit about your career and some key milestones that led to you to this point of founding Construct AI?
Yeah, sure. So I guess my first job around the construction industry, which I think is probably a good place to start, was with MCOR in 2004. I joined them, joined their business systems team, which I ran for about 5 years. And following that was a real, baptism of fire. I did everything from ERP implementations to payroll, HR, all that sort of good corporate stuff. But one of the things that really kind of I hadn't experienced up until that point was some of the complexities and anachronisms of the construction industry. It really is a different industry in the way that it works. The dynamics are different. The value chain is different than anything I'd experienced before. So that was a big eye opener for me. And following my time at MCOR, I went to work for a startup for a short while, a company called Ghost Telecom, operating in the mobile space. I worked in the mobile space before that, and then took some time out to do some self-improvement before joining the Monolith Group in 2008.
Excellent. That's interesting that you say you've experienced other industries, and your overriding feeling is the construction industry is a baptism of fire, which I totally agree with. I think it's hard to describe to other people from other industries how unique our industry is.
Yeah, I mean, if you try and draw a network map of the entities involved in, putting up any kind of construction project, but just take a simple commercial construction, you need a page of A0, not an A4.
Absolutely, and that's probably not enough.
Yeah, indeed.
And it's changing, and I suppose that's what my next question is really. That led to you founding Construct AI, which is specifically tailored for the construction industry. Yeah. So can you, just for the listeners, can you explain what Construct AI is? Obviously, there'll be a link to it in the show notes and everything, but what is it and why construction professionals should use it instead of, I suppose, just going onto ChatGPT and using a standalone LLM?
That's a really good question. So I'll take it really in 2 parts. Why we founded it. I'd like to say that it was a happy accident. There was a sort of conversation going on between myself and Paul David Munnelly, my co-founder. Paul David is on the group board of the Munnelly Group, and we were having some conversations about possibilities, what was going on with AI. Obviously, ChatGPT had come to market earlier on in the year, and we were kind of really asking ourselves, well, what does this mean for us? Is this something we should be involved in? We kind of just decided to do a little bit of a skunkworks project. We spend a bit of time on it. We just wanted to build an early proof of concept, really with the objective of answering two questions. Can we do it, and will it work? In both cases, we proved yes. We were also aware that we had to bring the team on in terms of skills. Whatever product idea we had to make sure that our team was really in a position to be able to help bring it to market. And luckily, we've got some fantastic people who work in Weston Analytics. It's an absolute privilege to lead them, and are just as responsible for it being in existence today as anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important point, isn't it? It's the adoption and the skills associated with these new tools. We sometimes forget how quickly, this has come into our sphere. And, it was only November 2022, wasn't it, that ChatGPT was released? I don't know about you. Have you had challenges with adoption and getting people to actually use it, and sort of taking ourselves out of our space where we're using it every day because we're in that space?
Yeah, I think there is an adoption challenge, but actually that's no different than any other type of new technology. It really isn't. In fact, I've spent a good proportion of my career addressing adoption problems in one form or another. And I think, when you have some new initiative, some new idea, some new product, convincing people why they should use it is always part of the problem and part of keeping it alive. So you can't really duck that. I think what we realized very early on is that actually we needed a feedback loop to make sure that we kept it relevant. So we were lucky enough to be able to alpha and beta test it on other staff within our group of companies. That was really super helpful. We're not a standalone startup, if you like. We're part of a larger group of companies, but what that gives us is access to people with some serious domain knowledge to help us build our products. Our development team between them, have something like 40 years worth of experience working in construction and rail and related industries. And that's just the software developers. So I like to think we know our subject quite well. And it was really important, to listen to the user feedback and make use of that domain knowledge when building the product.
Well, I think it shows in the products. And obviously, what I really love about Construct AI is you're really literally every week releasing an update, and you understand. I think that this stuff is evolving at such a rate that you need to keep up to date with it. Can you just tell us about what do you train it on? What's different about Construct AI that isn't on ChatGPT, for instance?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we had to work on was the fact that the construction industry has its own jargon. It has its own language. If I ask you what's the biggest job in London, you might say Mayor of London. But if I'm talking to anybody at work, they'll say a project like HS2 or Battersea or whatever is the biggest at the time. And Construct AI, responds to that jargon. So you don't have to spend lots of time preloading it with prompts in order to get the result you're interested in. James or Yoshi, if I bump into you, at an exhibition, there's only one or two subjects we're probably going to talk about. And almost as soon as we look at each other, we're kind of preloading that jargon and that context. And we figured that actually, if we could do that with an AI, it would make that AI more relevant to the people who we thought might use it. So we spent quite a lot of time doing that. The second thing I would say is that the problems about how long it takes to keep training LLMs is, it's well known, and has resulted in various gaps, I guess, in LLMs' perceived knowledge about current events or future events. So one of the things we had to address quickly was also how we tell it about events which are really current in our industry. We can't teach it about the whole world, and we're not going to attempt to. But what we are doing is making sure that it brings responses, including current information that include current information to end users. An example might be you can ask it, say, to produce a lifting plan for a very heavy window. Maybe you've got to lift a 200 kilo window up to the second floor of a development. The lift plan is a document which tells everyone involved in that particular operation, what they need to pay attention to, relevant information. And one of the things that it's highly likely to include is information about the weather. So our product, if you ask it for that sort of piece of information, will bring back the lift plan, and it will tell you what the wind speed is going to be if you give it a location and a time that you're planning to do this.
So that's pretty cool. That's taking it right up to real-time kind of analytics.
Yeah, but you have to, my guidance to the team really is that, we have to talk to it like it's an adult. So if if you try and test it or treat it like a 3-year-old, don't be unsurprised by the responses. If you treat it like an adult, much as you would, maybe a colleague at work, you might give them a piece of work to do, to go and develop such a document, bring it back and check over the answers. You might have that conversation that says, "That's great, Yoshi, but you didn't tell me about the weather. We need to know what's happening in northwest London, in a week's time, so that we don't drop this 200 kilo window."
Yeah, cool. So Phil, would you say that the Construct AI then is more tailored towards people who have a certain level of domain expertise?
No, it's not, because you can use its little domain expertise, and it will give you what you need. And but it has that knowledge. You can imagine if you've got, say, somebody who's fresh out of uni, maybe they've done an engineering related degree, but they haven't yet put their boots on the ground or in the mud. There are things that they'll need to know, and Construct AI can help them with those basic things as well. It's not necessarily just for people who know about subjects like machine learning, etc. It can be used by a wide range of people.
I think it talks to you at the level you're talking. So if it's a student, it will talk back to it in that terms. If it is someone with domain expertise, you'll get that necessary similar answer.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's and I'll come to this a bit later, but the technology is improving all the time. And I heard a quote the other day. It was in our newsletter actually, around how they said, the last version of the GPT model was like a baby. This version, GPT-4, is like a toddler, and then the next version is likely to be more like a PhD student. So you're going to get, presumably, Construct AI is going to be updated with the new models as they arise, so the conversation will get better.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of other products, we have a relationship with OpenAI, and as their models get updated, we obviously will take advantage of those. We believe we're adding value and good features, as you said, every week that people are looking for. Some of those are small steps, some of those are quite big steps, but each and every one teaches our team a thing or two about our product getting there. Hopefully, we'll keep our users with us.
Yeah. So Phil, can you give us some indications? Is Construct AI powered by GPT-4, Omni, GPT-4, Open Spaces model, OpenAI's model?
Yes.
And have you considered other kind of competing alternatives, or how did you end up landing with GPT-4?
Yeah, we have considered alternatives. We thought we'd start with the best of breed at the time, because it was. Yeah. Obviously, we've got an allegiance with them. Allegiance to that product now because we've invested in development around it. But we have got a layer of abstraction that means we can bring in either more models or different models, not set in stone.
Yeah, and I think that's very wise, because we don't know where things are going, and in the UK we're yet to see the meta model, which is open source. So when that finally lands here, that could change. So I think it's good to build in that kind of ability to be flexible. Just on like the practical side, for those kind of project managers and QSs and construction people listening, how does practically Construct AI enhance, say, productivity, efficiency in construction? And then on the flip side, is there a risk that relying too heavily on this AI might reduce that kind of critical thinking amongst professionals?
Yeah, I think again, you've given me two questions in one, so thanks for the extra value. I'll take
any order you like.
Yeah, I'll take the first one first. So yeah, we had we add value by bringing enhanced answers. Will it infantilize people, which I think is really what you were asking? I don't think it will. Me talking to you as a colleague in the industry doesn't infantilize me. In fact, it enhances me because I know you, and also I know where to go to take advantage of your knowledge. So this is kind of what I was saying about it, about speaking to an AI like it's an adult. I wouldn't want to take advantage of you. I wouldn't want to take you for granted. But I value our connection. I value our relationship. I value the fact that, if I need to know about the best strings to put on my bass, James,
I'm the worst for that.
You're one of a few people I can talk to about that, right? So
much more than anything to do with the construction.
I don't think it will infantilize people. There's a lot of scaremongering goes on about, what AIs will do for employment prospects. But I've had some really interesting conversations around this. One person pointed out to me that people who are starting work today have never not known the internet.
Yeah, it's scary.
Now, I'm old enough to remember what it was like without the internet. I didn't much like it. I prefer it now. Yeah. But I think when you think about that, and you think about people's natural intentions and motivations to be as productive as they can at work, they need the tools to do the job. And in the course of this conversation, the person gave me a really insightful comment in that they said, if we don't provide these tools with things like Construct AI to new starters, people who are recently joining our company, they will bring their own. They'll bring ChatGPT into our workplace. And how do you, and the question therefore is, how do you want to deal with that? Do you want to take a strategic approach and make some decisions about what AI your people use, or would you rather leave it to chance and risk your intellectual property ending up on a public platform?
Yeah, you can't ignore it. It's the head in the sand approach. You can't just assume this is going to go away. I remember it was similar when mobile phones came out. A lot of companies banned you from bringing mobile phones in and you had to lock them away. But
well, it
just happens,
Yeah, and you get to. I don't know if you've heard of the phrase the consumerization of IT.
Go on.
Yeah, but that was the situation when back in the early 2000s when the corporation said, okay, everyone's got to use BlackBerries, and the chairman and the CEO said, no, we're going to use our new iPhones. Yeah. And you get some kind of internal war between IT and the company management. That consumerization will happen with AI tools if organizations and businesses do not give AI tools to their staff.
And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around AI tools. I don't know if you've seen this, in that people think you can ban it or somehow it's a standalone entity. And you've got to explain to people that we're getting into the point where AI is just going to be in everything. You can't possibly ban it.
It's used by default. You
have to ban the internet.
Exactly. I mean, people ask me what can I use Construct AI for, and a lot of the time I genuinely have a problem answering that question. And when I think about why, it's because I don't know enough about what they're trying to get done. So essentially what we're doing is we're giving the world, or giving the construction industry, a new kind of biohack, really.
Yeah.
Just on that then, Phil, what are some of the more common topics you've seen the model ask at Construct AI?
So users, in what terms of what users are asking Construct AI?
Yeah.
Yes. Typically, there's a lot around health and safety. People are also really interested in obviously where the work is. They're also interested in, are they going to get paid? That's usually a follow-up question. We don't have complete answers to all of that, but we're in discussions with a number of organisations about building current projects and payment data into Construct AI, because people are really interested in those things. A lot of use cases around materials and calculations. We've been doing some evaluation on structural engineering problems with it. Some of it's quite successful. I'm not a strong structural engineer, but we feel that is a good possible use case for it. So, as I said at the start of the call, really, we're learning as we're going along, and we're listening to what our users are telling us, and that's how the product will evolve. It's not incorrect to say that when we started building it, we didn't know what we were going to build.
Yeah, and I think just taking the plunge and doing these things, failing fast, as they say, and moving on is the correct approach.
All we knew is we had to get started.
Yeah.
As a technology company, we had to get started, and we had to know about this stuff. So we had to build something in the sand pit and just and see if we could work it into it.
And everyone's in the same boat. It's not even the big companies. They're experimenting with this stuff. You see things like the Adobe AI assistant, which was pretty rubbish to start with. So it's the only way you're going to work out is by having a go. And like, you're very lucky you've got people on site who can beta test it for you, who understand the domain. I think that's a huge advantage. If you are just a startup who doesn't understand the industry, I think those kind of startups might struggle a bit. So I think that's utilizing that's a really good call.
Yeah, I mean, the context is everything, really, because anytime I bump into a colleague in the corridor or speak to somebody on a Teams call, 99 times out of 100, we're not going to be talking about anything else apart from construction until so that brings with it its own jargon, its own flavour, its own assumptions. And we've tried to capitalise on all of that.
And is it mainly trained on UK data, or is this a global thing? It's just we've got people from across the pond listening.
Yeah, we're training it. We're training it around the UK construction industry because that's what we know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that might translate to other countries or other countries. We don't know yet. But we know what we know, and we know about our domain. So that's what we can validate right now. So in terms of languages, we know that the large language models are well capable to do translations, and we've taken advantage of that as well. So we know, for example, apart from English, top 4 languages in construction in the UK are Polish, Brazilian, Portuguese, and Romanian.
ChatGPT tell you that?
Sorry?
Did ChatGPT tell you that?
It didn't, no. We did a little bit of homework. And again, that's an advantage of having our own sort of research team, if you like. But what we know from that is that in some situations, let's just say you were producing documentation for a toolbox talk or something like that. If you want to make sure that you've communicated to your team members, not all of whom might have English as a first language, in a complete way, it's easy to translate your output to different languages.
And in terms of the multimodal one, obviously the GPT Omni allows you to upload photos and pictures. Is that something that's going to be introduced to Construct AI in the future? You're that site.
We've built up quite a healthy backlog of features, as you can probably imagine. Yeah. Never a day goes by without somebody asking me when you're going to be adding this and when you're going to be adding that. So we've got a healthy backlog, and I think file uploads and downloads of different types is something that we're looking into, along with mobile apps and packaged web apps as well, because we know that we need to deploy in different ways. We're working hard to bring those features to our users.
Fantastic. And I couldn't end the conversation really without asking about, which I know is on a lot of people's mind, which is around data privacy and security. So how do you deal with that, especially considering that you're using a third-party model effectively, and I assume that's using some of their enterprise features to keep it secure?
Yeah, that's correct. Part of our commercial relationship with OpenAI does keep our customers' data with us and doesn't allow it to be used to train OpenAI's model. So that's the first thing. Secondly, as a company, we're quite used to dealing with sensitive data. We've got other software as a service applications that handle data of real people, and we must do so sensitively and securely, and we do that. So our security approach takes care of our customers' data.
It is a big concern in the industry, and I think sometimes actually having a company like yourself build the model and taking that kind of issue seriously, rather than just feeding information into the standard models, not knowing where it's going, is quite important. And I think that's quite another real asset that you've got that enterprise agreement, so it's not going out there into the big wide world training the larger OpenAI model.
Anecdotally, I've heard some horror stories about what happens to that data. I think it's something that any organization needs to be cognizant of. the tools that its people are using with commercially sensitive data. That's really, really, really important subject, and management teams in our industry need to pay attention to that. As I said, our approach is really going to be governed by our history with data around people, because we build scheduling apps for managing things like fatigue in the rail industry. We also build tools for managing access to work sites, and the whole subject does keep us awake at night, I think it's fair to say, and quite rightly too.
I think one last question for me before we wrap up is around, so how do people get hold of it? What's kind of the pricing if you're a one-man band or if you're a company? How do you structure that? So
to get hold of it, first off, you just go to constructai.com and hit one of the big yellow buttons, and we'll walk you through signing up. In terms of pricing, we have essentially three quite simple tiers. Firstly, there's a free tier, which has a limited amount of usage. You can then, if you wish to, you can subscribe with a credit card, and that's £20 a month. And then we're really happy to talk to larger enterprises about site-based licensing.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's been an incredibly interesting conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Yoshi, do you have any final questions for Phil?
No, all good.
Anything you want to ask us, Phil, before we wrap up?
I'm all good. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil. And for anyone who wants to try out Construct AI, there will be a link in the show notes. I've got it pinned to one of my tabs now, using it very regularly. Definitely check it out. You've got the luxury of the free trial or the free tier to have a play around with it. And it's really, really great stuff. So looking forward to see it progress, Phil. And hopefully we'll catch up again soon and see what's happened with it.
I look forward to it. Thanks very much, James. Thank you, Yoshi.